I always thought my brother was my closest friend. We weren't just siblings. We were practically twins in spirit. Growing up, we shared everything. Bunk beds, video games, even birthday parties. We had the kind of bond that people envy. So when I met Elizabeth, the woman who would eventually become my wife, it was only natural to introduce her to him early on. She was stunning, not just in the way she looked, but in the way she carried herself. Smart, sharp-witted, and calm under pressure. Elizabeth had this energy that pulled people in. My brother liked her right away. Too much, maybe. But at the time, I didn't notice. We started dating seriously. She and I moved in together after a year. Another year later, I proposed. She said yes, crying, laughing, everything you'd hope for in that moment. My brother was the first person I told. He hugged me, told me I deserved happiness. At our wedding, he stood by my side as my best man. He gave a beautiful speech, one that made everyone laugh and tear up a little. He said, "There's no one more loyal than my brother. And now he's found someone just as loyal to love him back." Everyone clapped. I smiled. She smiled. He smiled. It felt perfect. The first couple of years were smooth. Elizabeth and I built a quiet life together. Not glamorous, not always exciting, but solid. We had routines, silly habits, little inside jokes. She made our apartment feel like home. I was working long hours, but I always came back to her. My brother lived in another city, about an hour away. Still, he visited often. Weekends, holidays, sometimes even random Tuesdays. He always said he missed us. We'd hang out, play old video games, watch movies like when we were kids. Elizabeth would cook, and the three of us would sit together like family. And for a long time, I thought that was all it was. I noticed how well they got along, how they'd laugh at the same dry jokes, how they both liked the same books, even shared similar taste in music. Honestly, I was glad. I thought, how lucky am I? My wife and my brother are close. No tension, no awkwardness. But sometimes I'd walk into the room and they'd stop talking. Just for a second. Just long enough to feel wrong. Other times, she'd mention a conversation they'd had, something I didn't even know about. Like how he recommended her a book, or how they both hated a movie we watched together, or how she remembered a story from his childhood that I hadn't told her. I brushed it off. I didn't want to be that guy. Jealous, paranoid, insecure. Besides, I trusted them. I loved them. Both of them. Then, one rainy afternoon, everything changed. I was looking for our old travel backpack in the attic. We were planning a short trip to the mountains, and I figured it would be buried under the winter gear. Instead, I found a wooden box. Small, clean, almost polished. Tucked behind a stack of board games we hadn't touched in years. It didn't belong to me, and I'd never seen it before. I opened it. Inside were letters. Dozens of them, tied together with a red ribbon. At first, I thought they were old love letters between Elizabeth and me. Maybe something she'd saved. But my name wasn't on any of them. I untied the ribbon and picked one at random. It started with, "Dear A," my brother's name. I kept reading. My hands began to sweat. My chest got tight. It wasn't a love letter, not exactly. But it wasn't innocent either. She wrote about feeling alone. About how hard it was to adjust to married life. How she missed deep conversations and being seen. She said things like, "You always knew what I was feeling, even when I didn't say a word. And I don't know why I feel more like myself when I talk to you than when I talk to him." I sat there frozen, the letter shaking in my hand. What was this? I grabbed a second one. This time it was from him, from my brother. He wrote, "I never wanted things to be complicated. I just miss you when I don't hear from you. And I think about what life might have been like if we'd met at a different time." Each letter was like a small knife. Not sharp enough to kill on its own, but enough to leave cuts everywhere. There were dozens of them. Some short, others pages long. Some recent. Some from our first year of marriage. No one ever told me. No one slipped. No texts, no emails, no signs. Just these handwritten confessions, hidden in a box in the attic. I sat there for what felt like hours. Reading, rereading. Trying to understand how I missed all of this. The worst part? They never said they were in love. They never talked about crossing any physical lines. But emotionally, they were miles past where they should have stopped. It wasn't friendship. It wasn't harmless. It was something else, something dangerous. And it had been growing, quietly, behind my back. I put everything back in the box and closed the lid. I didn't confront her that night. I couldn't. I just lay in bed beside her, listening to her breathe, wondering how many times she had dreamed of him instead of me. I knew I had to talk to her, but I didn't know if I was ready to hear the truth. The next morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I woke up before her, sat at the kitchen table, and stared at that wooden box like it was radioactive. It might as well have been. When Elizabeth came downstairs, she immediately knew something was wrong. She asked if I was okay. I didn't answer. I just slid the box across the table toward her. Her face went pale. She didn't ask what it was. She didn't pretend. She just stood there, frozen, her eyes locked on the ribbon. I said one word, "Why?" Her eyes welled up with tears instantly. She sat down slowly, like her legs couldn't carry her anymore. She placed both hands on the box, but didn't open it. "I wasn't going to hide it forever," she said quietly. "I just didn't know how to tell you." That made me angrier than I expected. I snapped. "So you were just waiting for me to find it? Was this some test?" She shook her head, crying. "No, I was waiting for it to stop. I thought it would fade, that it meant nothing." "But it didn't fade," I said, "and it clearly meant something." She nodded, tears falling freely now. "Yes, it did." Then I asked the question I'd been dreading. "Did you love him?" She didn't answer right away. She looked down at her hands. Then, finally, she whispered, "Yes. Once." That word, once, hit me like a slap. "Once?" I asked. "Or always?" She looked up, her face broken. "I don't know. Maybe both." It felt like something inside me cracked. Not a dramatic shatter, just a slow, spreading fracture I couldn't stop. I asked her how long it had been going on. She told me it started before we got married, that he had written her a heartfelt letter after our engagement. Something about how happy he was for us, but also conflicted. She had responded. He wrote back. And that turned into more. They never kissed. Never touched. Never crossed the line, she insisted. But I don't even know what the line is anymore. To me, writing someone for years behind your husband's back, sharing your thoughts, your feelings, your doubts, that's 1,000 times worse than one night of stupidity. That's emotional loyalty, and it didn't belong to me. I asked her if she ever planned to tell me. She shook her head. "No, I didn't want to hurt you. I thought it would stop. I thought I'd let it go once we started our life." "But you didn't," I said. "You let it grow." She didn't argue. We sat in silence, the weight of everything pressing down on both of us. I couldn't look at her, not because I hated her, but because I didn't recognize her anymore. That afternoon, I called my brother. I didn't want to. My hands were shaking as I dialed his number. He picked up like nothing was wrong. "Hey man, what's up?" I didn't even say hello. I just said, "I know." He paused. Then he said, quietly, "You found the letters." "Yeah," I replied. "I found them." There was a long silence on the other end. Then he said, "I never meant for it to go that far." I nearly laughed. "That far? It's been years, man. Years. And you said nothing." "I didn't know how," he said. "You mean you didn't want to risk losing me?" I replied. He didn't deny it. I asked him, "Did you love her?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "But I never acted on it." "You wrote her hundreds of letters," I said. "You shared feelings you never even told me about. Don't act like you're innocent." He sighed. I know I crossed a line." "Then why didn't you stop?" "Because it felt good," he admitted. "It felt like someone saw me. I didn't have that with anyone else." His voice cracked when he said it, and for a second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "I don't think I can ever forgive you," I said. "I know," he replied. "I wouldn't either." I hung up. Just like that, my childhood best friend, my closest blood relative, was gone. I sat on the edge of the bed for a long time after that. Elizabeth came in, her eyes red and tired. "I want to fix this," she said. "I don't know how, but I want to try." I looked at her. This woman I had loved. This life we had built. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say that love could survive this. That we were strong enough. But I couldn't. Because something had changed in me. Something permanent. I said, "I need space." She nodded. "I understand." I packed a small bag. Clothes. Toothbrush. Charger. Nothing more. Before I left, she asked, "Are you coming back?" I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. And I walked out the door. I spent the first night in a cheap motel off the highway. The walls were thin, the sheets smelled like bleach, and the air conditioner clicked every 15 seconds. But it was quiet. And more importantly, it wasn't home. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering what the hell just happened to my life. Yesterday, I had a wife, a brother, a family. Now I had a suitcase and a hole in my chest. I didn't text her. I didn't answer her calls. There were 3 missed calls and a long message by morning. She said she didn't sleep, that she kept replaying everything in her mind, that she still loved me. I turned the phone over and stared at the blank wall instead. I didn't know what to feel. Anger? Sure. Betrayal? Obviously. But mostly it was grief. Grief for the life I thought I had. Grief for the version of her that only existed in my memory. Grief for the brother who used to be my best friend. I remembered when we were kids, how we'd ride our bikes until sunset. We had walkie-talkies and fake secret missions. We once dug a hole in the backyard trying to reach China. That kid, that loyal, goofy brother. Where the hell did he go? Did he die somewhere along the way? Was he replaced by this man who could sit at my wedding, toast to my love, and secretly wish my wife was his? I didn't cry. I think part of me wanted to, but the tears never came. Instead, I checked into a long-stay hotel across town and told my boss I needed a few days off. He didn't ask why. Maybe he saw it on my face. For the next few days, I floated. I walked aimlessly through the city, ate bad takeout, ignored everyone's messages. Elizabeth texted every day. Sometimes just "I miss you." Sometimes long paragraphs about the good times, her regrets, how she'd do anything to fix this. I never replied. My brother, on the other hand, didn't try. Not once. Not a call. Not a text. Not even a stupid meme to break the ice like he used to send. And weirdly, that hurt more. It confirmed something I didn't want to admit. That he had already made peace with losing me. He had chosen her, not in a romantic way, maybe, but emotionally. And he was willing to sacrifice our relationship for it. I spent a lot of time thinking about forgiveness. What does it actually mean? Does forgiving someone mean pretending it never happened? Does it mean staying, rebuilding, learning to trust again? Or does it just mean letting go of the anger so you can move on? Because I wasn't angry all the time. Not anymore. I was just hollow. And then came the envelope. On the 5th day, when I returned to the hotel after a walk, there was a white envelope slid under the door. No name. No return address. Inside was a letter, handwritten. From Elizabeth. She didn't text this one. She didn't email. She wrote it the old-fashioned way. And somehow, that made it feel more real. She said she wasn't asking for forgiveness. Not yet. She just wanted me to understand. She wrote about how she met my brother before she met me. Not in person, but through my stories. How I always talked about him. Idolized him. Told funny stories, deep stories. She said she felt like she knew him before they ever shook hands. And when they finally met, there was this strange familiarity, like meeting someone she'd read about in a book. She swore she never intended to fall into that space with him. But it felt safe. Easy. He was a mirror, she said. He reflected back the parts of herself she didn't even know were there. But she chose me. She married me. She built a life with me. And she said she still wanted it. Still believed in it. Still loved me. She ended the letter with, "I know you may never come back. But I'll be here. Waiting. Hoping you still believe in us." I read it 3 times. Each time, it hit different. Part of me wanted to crumple it up and throw it away. Another part wanted to drive straight back home and hold her. But neither part moved. I just sat on the edge of the bed, letter in hand, and breathed. For the first time in days, I let myself cry. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet, tired tears for everything I had lost and everything I didn't know how to get back. That night, I dreamed about the wedding. About the speech my brother gave. But in the dream, the words were different. He looked me in the eye and said, "I'm sorry. I loved her too." I woke up gasping, sweat-soaked, heart racing. And that's when I knew. This wasn't going away. It would follow me wherever I ran. Because this wasn't just about them anymore. It was about who I wanted to be and what I was willing to live with. And I wasn't sure of the answer. The next morning, I packed my things and went home. Not because I had forgiven her. Not because I missed her too much. But because I needed to face what was left. Avoiding her wasn't going to make this easier. When I walked through the door, the house was too clean. Like someone had scrubbed every surface hoping to erase the past. Elizabeth was sitting on the couch, holding her phone like a lifeline. When she saw me, her eyes widened, not with hope, but with fear. I didn't say anything at first. I just put my bag down and stood there, looking at her. She stood too, slowly, carefully, like any sudden movement might scare me away. "I wasn't sure you'd come back," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm not back," I replied. "I just came to talk." She nodded, like she'd been preparing for this moment for days. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the same place where I first handed her the box of letters. Only now, there were no secrets between us. Just the wreckage. I asked her everything. No filter. No softness. When did it really start? Did you ever talk about leaving me? Did you ever wish I'd find out? She answered honestly. Painfully. It started 6 months before the wedding. My brother had written her something poetic in a birthday card, a line she never forgot. He said, "You deserve someone who hears your silence." That sentence lived in her head for months. She said it made her feel understood, seen, in a way I never had. I asked, "Why didn't you leave before we got married then?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Because I loved you too," she said. "It was always both of you. But you chose me. You fought for me. And I wanted to believe that was enough." I asked her, was it? She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "For a while. Yes. But then I started writing back, and I kept needing that version of myself I only saw through him." It was the worst kind of answer, honest. I asked the final question, the one I'd been holding in like poison. "Do you still love him?" She looked like I'd slapped her. Then she said something I wasn't ready for. "I don't know anymore. I haven't heard from him since you left." That made my stomach turn. "So now that he's silent, you're choosing me?" "No," she said quickly. "I'm not choosing you out of default. I'm choosing you because I'm willing to rebuild what I broke. Even if you never trust me again." That should have made me feel better. It didn't. Because love after betrayal isn't about words. It's about silence and what it means. She asked if I'd be willing to go to therapy, to talk to someone together, to try. I didn't answer her. Instead, I asked if I could go upstairs. I wanted to see our room. I needed to know if I could even sleep in that bed again. When I opened the door, everything was the same. Too much the same. Her pillow, my shirt on the back of the chair, the candle we used to light during storms. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the wall. What do you do when home doesn't feel safe anymore? What do you do when your heart wants to stay, but your pride wants to run? She knocked lightly before entering. She didn't sit next to me. She just stood near the doorway, like a guest. She asked, "What are you thinking?" I said, "I'm thinking that if this were anyone else's story, I'd tell them to run." She nodded slowly. "But it's not someone else's story," she said. "It's yours. Ours. And maybe that means we get to write a new chapter, even if the old ones are stained." I didn't answer. Not then. Because I didn't know yet if I wanted to start a new chapter, or finally close the book. That night, I slept in the guest room. Not out of anger, but out of confusion. I needed the space, not just physically, but emotionally. She didn't come in. She didn't knock. She respected it. In the morning, there was coffee on the counter. Black. Just how I like it. A small note underneath the mug. "Thank you for coming back, even if just to talk." I held the note longer than I meant to. That day, we didn't say much. But we were around each other. It was awkward, heavy, real, and in a strange way, that made it feel more honest than before. That evening, she told me she'd booked an individual therapy session. No pressure, no expectations, just something to show that she wasn't standing still. And then she asked something simple. "Will you have dinner with me tonight? Just as people who once loved each other?" I said yes, because for the first time in a long time, I wanted to remember what that love felt like. Dinner was quiet at first. She made pasta, my favorite, just like she used to when we first moved in together. Same plates, same wine glasses, same small candle between us. Everything looked familiar, but it all felt different. I watched her hands shake slightly as she poured the wine. She was trying so hard to keep it normal, but nothing about this was normal. We ate slowly, cautiously, like two people on a first date, but with a decade of baggage between them. Finally, she spoke. "I don't know how to act around you," she said. "I don't know if I should give you space or fight to stay close." I set my fork down and looked at her. "I don't know either," I said honestly. "I'm still figuring out how to be in this room with you." She nodded. "I get that." There was a long pause. Then she asked, "Can I tell you something without expecting a reaction?" I nodded. She said, "I started individual therapy this week." That surprised me. "I didn't go because of us," she continued. "I mean, not just because of us. I went because I realized I've spent years burying parts of myself in other people. In you. In him. I wanted to feel seen, but I never really looked at myself." That hit me harder than I expected. She wasn't just broken because of what happened. She'd been breaking quietly for years, and none of us noticed. Especially not me. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a folded paper. My therapist gave me a question. I was supposed to ask myself this every day. If I met myself today, would I be proud of how I'm loving the people in my life? She looked at me, eyes glassy. And for the first time, I want to be able to say yes. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. After dinner, I helped her with the dishes. It was such a normal thing to do, and yet, the weight behind every movement was heavy. I remembered doing this hundreds of times before. Rinsing plates, passing spoons, elbow bumps and soap bubbles. But now, everything felt fragile. She broke the silence again. Will you ever talk to him? I paused. I don't know, I said. I think about it a lot. I dream about it, even. What happens in the dreams? She asked gently. He always says the same thing, I said. He says, I'm sorry. I loved her too. She looked down. Would it help if you heard it while awake? That question lingered in the air. The next morning, I sent him a message. Just 5 words. Can we talk in person? He replied instantly. Yes. Anytime, anywhere. We agreed to meet at a park halfway between our cities. The same park we used to go to as kids. There was a bench near the old fountain, the one where we carved our initials into the wood when we were 9. I got there first. The place looked the same. Tom had barely touched it. But I had changed. When he arrived, we didn't hug. We just sat. For a while, neither of us said anything. Just stared at the fountain and listened to the sound of water falling over stone. Then he spoke. I've gone over what to say 100 times, he said. But none of it feels good enough. I stayed quiet. He continued. I was jealous of you my whole life. Not because you had more or did better, but because people loved you so easily. You were the one who walked into a room and made everyone laugh. I always felt like the sidekick. I glanced at him. I never saw you that way, I said. You were the one I looked up to. Always. He shook his head. I didn't know that. And when I met Elizabeth, I didn't expect to connect with her. It just happened. He looked at me finally. But that doesn't excuse it. I should have stopped it. I should have told you. I should have let you hate me sooner, instead of pretending everything was fine. I felt a lump in my throat. I asked him the one question I never dared to say aloud. Did you ever want her to leave me? He closed his eyes for a moment, then said quietly, yes, for a while. But then I saw how much you loved her, and I hated myself for even thinking it. I nodded slowly. There it was. The worst of it. Out in the open. We sat in silence again. The wind moved through the trees above us, and kids screamed in the distance, chasing pigeons. Finally, I said, I don't know if I can forgive you yet. He nodded. I know, but I don't want to hate you forever. He looked down, eyes wet. Me neither. I stood up. He did too. We didn't hug, but we shook hands. And in that handshake, there was a kind of grief. And maybe, a kind of hope. I went home that evening and told Elizabeth everything. She didn't ask what I said. She just asked how I felt. I told her I didn't have the words. But for the first time in weeks, the air felt lighter. She smiled softly. Maybe healing isn't about getting back what we had, she said. Maybe it's about building something new, even if it looks different. That night, I didn't sleep in the guest room. I lay beside her, not as a man who had everything figured out, but as someone who was finally willing to try. It's been 6 months since I found the letters. Sometimes, it feels like a lifetime ago. Other times, it still feels like yesterday. Elizabeth and I are still together. But we're not the same people we were. We go to therapy, separately and together. Some weeks are better than others. Some days we barely talk. Some nights we stay up until 2 a.m., unpacking emotions we didn't even know we had. It's not easy. It's not romantic. It's work. But it's also real. There's no pretending anymore. No illusions. No lies about how perfect everything is. I've learned more about her in the last 6 months than in all the years we were married before. The things she hides. The things she fears. The versions of herself she used to silence for the sake of being enough. She's learning too. About me. About how I bury pain under jokes. How I confuse loyalty with avoidance. How I sometimes pull away when I should lean in. We're rebuilding something. Not what we had, but something new. Not better. Not worse. Just honest. Sometimes, I still get flashes of the past. I'll see her laughing at a text, and my brain immediately whispers, is it him? She notices the way I look, and she'll quietly turn the phone toward me, like to say, you don't have to ask. That's how broken trust works. It doesn't vanish. It lingers. But it can soften. As for my brother, we've spoken twice since the park. Both times were short, polite, careful. He sent me a message on my birthday. Nothing emotional. Just a simple, hope you're doing well. I think about you. I replied, thanks. Same here. And that was it. We're not friends. Not enemies. Just two men holding a fragile memory of brotherhood that may never return. And that's okay. Because forgiveness, I've learned, isn't always a reunion. Sometimes it's just release. Letting go of the anger, not because the person deserves it, but because you do. I still have the box. The one with the letters. It's in the closet now. I haven't touched it in months. Haven't read a single page. But I didn't throw it away. Not out of sentiment, but because it's part of my story. It reminds me of what I survived. Of what we survived. Elizabeth once asked me, during one of our longer therapy sessions, what do you think would have happened if I told you everything before you found the letters? I thought about it, then said, I think I would have left. She nodded. And now? I still don't know, I said. But I stayed. That has to mean something. Some days, I feel proud of that choice. Other days, I question it. But that's the thing about healing. It's not a straight line. It loops, it dips, it drags you back when you think you're finally free. And yet, here we are, still waking up beside each other. Still choosing, even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Last weekend, we went on a hike. Nothing fancy, just a small trail outside the city. We didn't talk much. Just walked. The trees were turning. Orange, red, yellow. The world changing slowly around us. At the top, we sat on a bench and looked out over the valley. No words. Just breath. And in that silence, for the first time in a long time, I felt peace. Not because everything was fixed. Not because it was perfect. But because I wasn't running anymore. Not from her. Not from myself. Not from the pain. I'd finally stopped running. And that was the beginning of something new.